In the vast, arid plains under a sky painted with stars, there lived a man named Abraham, whose heart burned with a quiet but unshakable faith. The land of Ur was his home, a bustling hub of merchants and traders, where the air was thick with the scent of spices and the clamor of voices. But Abraham was different. While others worshipped idols carved from stone, he listened to a whisper in his soul, a voice that spoke of a single true God. One night, as Abraham gazed at the heavens, the voice became clear. It was not a dream, nor a fleeting thought, but a call that shook the very core of his being. "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household," the voice said, "and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Abraham, now 75 years old, stood still, his weathered hands gripping his staff. The promise was grand, but the path was uncertain. He had no children, no map, and no guarantee, only faith. His wife, Sarah, sat by the fire, her eyes tracing the lines of worry on Abraham's face. "What troubles you, my love?" she asked. Abraham shared the divine call, his voice trembling with awe. Sarah, though practical and wise, felt a pang of fear. Leave everything? Their home, their kin, their safety? Yet, she saw the fire in Abraham's eyes, a fire she had trusted for decades. "If this is God's will," she said, "we will go." The journey began at dawn. Abraham, Sarah, and their nephew Lot gathered their flocks, their tents, and their servants, setting out toward a land unknown. The desert sun beat down mercilessly, and the nights were cold and lonely. Yet, Abraham's heart remained steadfast. He built altars at every stop, offering prayers of gratitude to the God who had spoken to him. The land of Canaan, rugged and untamed, stretched before them. It was here that God appeared again, saying, "To your offspring I will give this land." Years passed, and Abraham and Sarah grew older, their bodies weary from the journey. The promise of a child seemed impossible. Sarah's laughter, once bright, now carried a hint of sorrow. "How can I bear a child now?" she whispered to Abraham one evening. But Abraham clung to the promise, his faith a beacon in the darkness. One day, 3 mysterious visitors arrived at their tent. They spoke with authority, declaring that Sarah would bear a son within a year. Sarah, overhearing, laughed in disbelief, but the strangers' words were true. In time, she gave birth to Isaac, a child of miracle and joy. The greatest test, however, was yet to come. One night, God spoke again, commanding Abraham to take Isaac, his beloved son, to a mountain in Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. Abraham's heart shattered, but his faith held firm. He rose early, saddled his donkey, and took Isaac to the mountain. As they climbed, Isaac asked, "Father, where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham's voice wavered, but did not break. "God will provide," he said. At the summit, Abraham built an altar, his hands trembling as he bound Isaac. But as he raised the knife, a voice thundered from heaven. "Do not harm the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your only son." A ram appeared in the thicket, and Abraham offered it in Isaac's place, naming the place, "The Lord will provide." This story of Abraham's covenant is a testament to trust in the face of uncertainty. It speaks to the American spirit, pioneering into the unknown, holding fast to hope, and believing in a purpose greater than oneself. Abraham's journey reminds us that faith is not the absence of doubt, but the courage to move forward despite it. In the rolling hills of Bethlehem, a young shepherd named David tended his father's flocks. His days were filled with the bleating of sheep, the rustle of wind through the grass, and the songs he sang to his God. David was no warrior, no king, only a boy with a sling and a heart full of courage. Yet, his story would become a legend, a beacon of bravery for generations. The land of Israel was at war. The Philistines, a fierce enemy, had gathered their armies in the Valley of Elah. Among them stood Goliath, a giant of a man, towering over 9 feet tall, his bronze armor gleaming in the sun. Each day, Goliath taunted the Israelites, challenging them to send a champion to face him. King Saul and his soldiers trembled, their courage faltering under the giant's shadow. David, sent by his father to deliver food to his brothers at the battlefront, arrived to hear Goliath's boasts. His brothers mocked him, calling him a dreamer, but David's heart burned with indignation. "Who is this Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" he asked. His words reached Saul, who summoned the boy. David stood before the king, his shepherd's tunic dusty, his eyes alight with conviction. "Let no one lose heart," David said. "I will fight him." Saul offered David his armor, but it was too heavy. David refused it, choosing instead his sling and 5 smooth stones from a stream. As he stepped into the valley, the Philistine army laughed, and Goliath sneered, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" But David's voice rang clear, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the Lord Almighty." With a prayer on his lips, David ran toward Goliath, his sling whirling. A single stone flew, striking the giant's forehead. Goliath fell lifeless to the ground. The Philistines fled, and the Israelites roared in victory. David, the shepherd boy, had become a hero. Years later, David faced other giants, not of flesh, but of spirit. As king, he made mistakes, succumbed to temptation, and bore the weight of his sins. Yet, his heart remained open to God's mercy. He penned psalms of repentance and praise, pouring out his soul in words that still echo today. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." David's story resonates deeply in America, a land of underdogs and dreamers. It teaches that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Whether facing personal struggles or societal challenges, David's faith and resilience inspire us to stand tall, trust in a higher power, and confront our giants with unwavering resolve. In the bustling port city of Joppa, Jonah, a prophet of God, lived a life of quiet devotion. But when God called him to Nineveh, a city notorious for its cruelty, Jonah's heart recoiled. "Go to Nineveh," God said, "and preach against it, for its wickedness has come up before me." Jonah, however, could not bear the thought of offering mercy to such a place. Instead he fled, boarding a ship bound for Tarshish, as far from Nineveh as he could go. The sea was calm at first, but a storm soon arose, fierce and unrelenting. The sailors, terrified, cast lots to find the cause of their misfortune, and the lot fell on Jonah. "I am a Hebrew," Jonah confessed, "and I worship the Lord, who made the sea and the land. This storm is because of me." Reluctantly, the sailors threw him overboard, and the sea grew still. As Jonah sank into the depths, a great fish swallowed him whole. For 3 days and nights he languished in its belly, his heart wrestling with despair and repentance. "From the depths of the grave, I called for help," he prayed, "and you listened to my cry." God heard him, and the fish spat Jonah onto dry land. With a second chance, Jonah obeyed. He walked the streets of Nineveh proclaiming, 40 days more, and Nineveh will be destroyed." To his astonishment, the people listened. From the king to the lowliest servant, they repented, fasting and praying for mercy. God saw their change of heart and spared the city. Jonah, however, was angry. He sat outside the city, sulking under a plant God provided for shade. When the plant withered, Jonah's frustration grew. God spoke gently, "You have pity for the plant, but not for the people of Nineveh, more than 120,000 souls who cannot tell their right hand from their left." Jonah's heart softened, and he began to understand the depth of God's compassion. This story of redemption speaks to the American ideal of second chances. Jonah's journey, from rebellion to repentance, from judgment to mercy, mirrors the struggles we all face. It reminds us that God's love extends to everyone, even those we deem unworthy, and that grace can transform even the hardest hearts. In the time of Jesus, a lawyer asked, "Who is my neighbor?" To answer, Jesus told a story that would echo through the ages. A man traveled the winding, dangerous road from Jerusalem to Jericho, where bandits lurked in the shadows. They attacked him, stripping him of his belongings and leaving him half dead by the roadside. A priest passed by, his robes pristine, but he crossed to the other side, unwilling to risk defilement. A Levite followed, glancing at the wounded man but hurrying on. Then came a Samaritan, a man despised by the Jews for his heritage. His heart stirred with compassion. He knelt beside the stranger, bandaging his wounds with oil and wine, and placed him on his donkey. At an inn, he paid for the man's care, promising to return and settle any debt. Jesus asked, "Which of these was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The lawyer answered, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus replied, "Go and do likewise." This parable, simple yet profound, cuts to the heart of what it means to love. The Samaritan saw no boundaries of race, religion, or status, only a fellow human in need. In America, a nation of diverse peoples, this story challenges us to extend kindness beyond our comfort zones, to see every stranger as a neighbor, and to act with compassion in a world often divided by fear. In Jerusalem, a carpenter's son named Jesus walked among the people, teaching love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of God. His words drew crowds, but they also stirred the hearts of those in power. Betrayed by one of his own, Jesus was arrested, tried, and sentenced to death on a cross. His followers wept as he breathed his last, their hopes shattered. But on the third day, the tomb was empty. Mary Magdalene, arriving at dawn, found the stone rolled away. Angels declared, "He is not here, he has risen." Jesus appeared to his disciples, his wounds still visible, but his presence radiant with life. "Peace be with you," he said, and their despair turned to joy. The resurrection is the cornerstone of Christian faith, a story of hope triumphing over death. In America, where challenges like division and hardship test the spirit, this story reminds us that light can emerge from darkness. Jesus' victory offers a promise. No matter how deep the sorrow, hope can rise again, renewing our strength to build a better world. Long before cities rose and empires fell, in a world grown wild with corruption, there lived a man named Noah, whose heart remained true to God. The earth was a place of chaos, where violence and greed choked the goodness from humanity. Yet Noah, a farmer with calloused hands and a gentle spirit, walked humbly with his Creator. He lived with his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their families, tending fields under skies that seemed to grow darker each day. One evening, as Noah knelt in prayer, God's voice broke through the silence. "The earth is filled with wickedness," God said. "I will send a flood to cleanse it, but you, Noah, have found favor in my eyes. Build an ark of gopher wood, 300 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high. Make rooms in it and cover it with pitch. I will bring animals to you, and you and your family will be saved." Noah's heart pounded. A flood? An ark? He had never built a boat, nor seen rain fall in torrents. The task seemed impossible, and the message dire. Yet, Noah trusted God. He shared the vision with his family, their faces a mix of awe and fear. His wife, Mara, touched his arm. "If God has spoken, we must obey," she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. Their sons nodded, ready to work. The construction began at dawn. Noah and his sons felled trees, shaped planks, and hammered nails under the scorching sun. Neighbors mocked them, their laughter echoing across the valley. "Noah, you old fool," they shouted. "There's not a cloud in the sky." But Noah's faith held firm. Each swing of his hammer was a prayer, each plank a testament to his trust. Years passed, decades even, and the ark rose, a massive structure dwarfing the fields. When the ark was complete, God's command came again. "Enter the ark, you and your family, for I have seen your righteousness." Animals arrived, 2 by 2, lions with manes like fire, doves with wings of pearl, and creatures Noah had never seen. The people jeered louder, but Noah's family boarded the ark. Then the skies darkened, and rain fell, first a drizzle, then a deluge. The earth shook as springs burst forth, and waters rose, swallowing the land. For 40 days and nights, the rain poured. Inside the ark, Noah and his family cared for the animals, their faith alight in the storm. Mara sang hymns to calm her sons' wives, while Shem, Ham, and Japheth tended to the restless creatures. Noah prayed, his heart heavy for the world left behind, but hopeful for the promise ahead. When the rain ceased, the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. Noah sent out a raven, then a dove. When the dove returned with an olive leaf, joy filled their hearts, life endured. God's voice came once more. "Come out of the ark, you and all the creatures with you." Noah stepped onto dry ground, the air fresh with the scent of new beginnings. He built an altar, offering thanks to God who made a covenant. "Never again will I destroy the earth with a flood." A rainbow arched across the sky, a sign of God's promise. Noah's story speaks to the American spirit of perseverance. In a land built by pioneers who faced untamed wilderness, his faith in the face of ridicule and his labor through uncertainty remind us to trust in a higher purpose, even when the world doubts. The rainbow stands as a symbol of hope, urging us to rebuild after life's storms. In the land of Egypt, where the Nile's waters nourished fields and the pyramids stood as monuments to power, the Israelites groaned under slavery. Pharaoh's decrees grew harsher, and fear gripped the Hebrew people. Among them, a child named Moses was born, his life a spark of hope in a dark time. His mother, Jochebed, hid him from Pharaoh's order to kill all Hebrew boys. For 3 months, she cradled him in secret, her heart aching with love and dread. When hiding became impossible, she wove a basket of reeds, sealed it with pitch, and placed Moses among the river's reeds, entrusting him to God. His sister Miriam watched from afar, her eyes sharp with hope. Pharaoh's daughter, bathing in the Nile, found the basket. Her heart softened at the sight of the crying child. "This is a Hebrew baby," she said, yet she took him as her own, naming him Moses, meaning drawn out. Miriam, bold and quick, offered to find a nurse, her own mother. Thus, Jochebed raised her son in the palace, whispering stories of their God. Moses grew, torn between two worlds, the luxury of Egypt and the suffering of his people. One day, seeing an Egyptian beat a Hebrew, his blood boiled. He struck the Egyptian, killing him, and fled to Midian, a fugitive. There, tending sheep for Jethro, a priest, Moses found peace, until God called from a burning bush that blazed but did not burn. "I am the God of Abraham," the voice said. "I have seen my people's suffering. Go to Pharaoh and say, 'Let my people go.'" Moses trembled. "Who am I to face Pharaoh?" he asked. God replied, "I will be with you." With his brother Aaron, Moses returned to Egypt. Pharaoh scoffed, increasing the Israelites' burdens. But God sent plagues, blood, frogs, locusts, darkness, until Pharaoh relented. The Israelites fled, only to face the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind them. Moses raised his staff, and God parted the waters, leading his people to freedom. Moses' story resonates in America, a nation founded on the pursuit of liberty. His courage to confront oppression and lead his people through the impossible mirrors the struggles of those who fight for justice. The parted sea is a reminder that faith can move mountains, guiding us to freedom through trust in God's power. In Jerusalem, Solomon, son of David, ascended the throne as a young king, his heart heavy with the weight of leadership. Israel was a nation of tribes, often divided, and Solomon longed to rule with wisdom. One night, God appeared in a dream, saying, "Ask for whatever you want." Solomon, humbled, replied, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and distinguish between right and wrong." God, pleased, granted him wisdom beyond measure. Soon, Solomon's reputation spread. 2 women came before him, each claiming a child as her own. "This is my son," one cried. "No, he is mine," said the other. The child, too young to speak, lay in a cradle. Solomon, calm, called for a sword. "Divide the child in 2, he said, "and give half to each." One woman nodded, but the other cried, "No, give him to her, let him live." Solomon's eyes softened. "Give the child to the one who would spare him, for she is his mother." The people marveled at his wisdom, and his fame grew. Solomon built a magnificent temple, a house for God, its cedar beams and gold gleaming in the sun. He penned proverbs, songs of love, and words of insight, guiding his people. Yet his heart faced trials, wealth, power, and alliances tempted him. In his later years he strayed, but his wisdom endured in his writings, urging all to seek God's truth. Solomon's story speaks to America's quest for justice and discernment. In a land of laws and ideals, his heart for fairness reminds us to listen, judge rightly, and seek wisdom above all. His temple stands as a call to build lives that honor God, grounded in truth and compassion. In the Persian Empire, a Jewish girl named Esther, orphaned and raised by her cousin Mordecai, found herself in a palace, chosen as queen to King Xerxes. Her beauty was unmatched, but her heart carried the faith of her people. Meanwhile, Haman, a prideful official, plotted to destroy the Jews, enraged by Mordecai's refusal to bow to him. Mordecai sent word to Esther, "You must speak to the king." Esther hesitated. Approaching the king uninvited meant death, unless he extended his scepter. "Fast and pray for me," she told Mordecai. For 3 days, she and her people sought God's strength. Then, with courage, she entered the throne room. The king, seeing her, raised his scepter, sparing her life. Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet, then another. At the second, she revealed her Jewish heritage and Haman's plot. "My people are to be destroyed," she cried. The king, furious, ordered Haman's execution and issued a decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves. They were saved, and Esther's bravery became a legacy. Esther's story resonates in America, where courage in the face of injustice inspires change. Her willingness to risk all for her people reflects the spirit of those who stand against oppression. Her faith teaches us that God places us in moments for such a time as this, calling us to act with boldness and trust. In the land of Moab, Ruth, a young widow, clung to her mother-in-law, Naomi, after loss struck their family. Naomi, also widowed, planned to return to Bethlehem. "Go back to your people," Naomi urged Ruth. But Ruth's heart was steadfast. "Where you go, I will go," she said. "Your God will be my God." In Bethlehem, Ruth gleaned in the fields of Boaz, a kind landowner. Noticing her loyalty to Naomi, Boaz offered protection and grain. Naomi, seeing hope, guided Ruth to seek Boaz as a kinsman redeemer. At the threshing floor, Ruth humbly asked Boaz to redeem her family's line. Moved, Boaz married her, and their son, Obed, became the grandfather of King David. Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's kindness weave a story of redemption that speaks to America's values of family, community, and second chances. Ruth's choice to embrace a new faith and home reflects the courage of immigrants and the power of love to heal. Her story reminds us that God's plan unfolds through faithfulness, leading to hope and legacy. In the land of Canaan, where rolling hills met endless skies, lived Joseph, the favored son of Jacob. Clothed in a coat of many colors, a gift from his father, Joseph's dreams sparkled with divine promise. At 17, he shared visions of sheaves bowing to him and stars kneeling before his light. His brothers, consumed by jealousy, scoffed at the dreamer. "Will you rule over us?" they sneered, their hearts hardening. One day, sent to check on his brothers tending flocks, Joseph found himself betrayed. They seized him, tore his coat, and cast him into a dry pit. "Let's sell him," Judah proposed, and for 20 pieces of silver, they handed Joseph to Midianite traders bound for Egypt. As dust swirled around the caravan, Joseph's heart wrestled with fear, yet a quiet faith stirred within him. In Egypt, sold to Potiphar, a high official, Joseph served with diligence. His wisdom and integrity earned him favor, and he rose to oversee Potiphar's household. But temptation came in the form of Potiphar's wife, who sought to seduce him. "Lie with me," she urged, but Joseph fled, declaring, "How can I sin against God?" Enraged, she falsely accused him, and Joseph was thrown into prison. In the darkness of his cell, Joseph's dreams seemed distant, but God's presence was near. He interpreted the dreams of fellow prisoners, a cupbearer and a baker, with uncanny accuracy. "Remember me," Joseph asked the cupbearer, who was restored to Pharaoh's court. Yet the cupbearer forgot him, and 2 years passed in silence. Then Pharaoh dreamed of 7 fat cows devoured by 7 gaunt ones, and 7 healthy ears of grain consumed by 7 withered ones. None could interpret until the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Summoned before Pharaoh, Joseph, now 30, stood humbly. "God will give the answer," he said. The dreams foretold 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh, struck by Joseph's wisdom, made him governor, second only to the king. Joseph's foresight saved Egypt. He stored grain during the plentiful years, and when famine struck, nations came to buy food. Among them were Joseph's brothers, unaware of his identity. Recognizing them, Joseph tested their hearts, seeking signs of change. When they showed remorse and loyalty to their youngest brother, Benjamin, Joseph wept, revealing himself. "I am Joseph. Does my father still live?" His brothers trembled, fearing retribution, but Joseph embraced them. "God sent me here to preserve life," he said. Joseph's story resonates with the American dream of rising from hardship to greatness. His unwavering faith through betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment reflects resilience and trust in God's plan. For a YouTube audience, Joseph's journey teaches that dreams, though tested, can lead to redemption, and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds. In the hill country of Ephraim, Hannah lived with her husband Elkanah, in a home filled with love but shadowed by sorrow. Hannah was barren, her heart aching for a child, while Elkanah's other wife, Peninnah, bore children and taunted Hannah cruelly. Each year, the family journeyed to Shiloh to worship at the Lord's house, and Hannah's pain grew heavier with every step. At the tabernacle, Hannah poured out her soul, her lips moving silently in prayer. "O Lord Almighty," she vowed, "if you give your servant a son, I will dedicate him to you all the days of his life." Eli the priest saw her and thought she was drunk. "I am not drunk," Hannah said, "but pouring out my anguish to God." Eli blessed her. "Go in peace, and may God grant your request." In time, God answered. Hannah bore a son, naming him Samuel, meaning heard by God. True to her vow, when Samuel was weaned, she brought him to Shiloh, presenting him to Eli. "This is the child I prayed for," she said, her voice steady despite her breaking heart. "He is dedicated to the Lord." Hannah's song of praise rang out. "My heart rejoices in the Lord. There is no one holy like him." Samuel grew in the tabernacle, serving God with a pure heart. God called him in the night, a voice clear and gentle. "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening," Samuel answered. Through him, God spoke to Israel, guiding a nation drifting from faith. Hannah, though parted from her son, visited him yearly, sewing robes with love in every stitch. Her sacrifice bore fruit, as Samuel became a prophet and judge, leading Israel back to God. Hannah's story speaks to the American heart, where sacrifice for loved ones and faith and prayer resonate deeply. Her willingness to give her son to God reflects the courage to trust in divine purpose, even through loss. For a YouTube audience, Hannah's journey offers hope that prayers, though answered in unexpected ways, can shape destinies and renew faith. In Babylon, where golden statues gleamed and the king's power was absolute, Daniel, a young Israelite exile, stood out for his wisdom and faith. Taken captive as a youth, he served in King Nebuchadnezzar's court, interpreting dreams with God-given insight. His reputation grew, but so did envy among Babylon's officials. When Darius the Mede became king, he favored Daniel, appointing him over the kingdom's administrators. Jealous rivals plotted against him, knowing Daniel's faith was unshakable. They tricked Darius into issuing a decree. For 30 days, no one could pray to any god or man except the king, under penalty of death in the lion's den. Daniel, undeterred, prayed 3 times a day at his open window, facing Jerusalem, his heart fixed on God. The officials reported him, and Darius, bound by his own law, was heartbroken. "Your God will deliver you," he told Daniel as he was cast into the den. The stone sealed the entrance, and Darius fasted through the night. Inside, Daniel knelt among the lions, their eyes glinting in the dark. Yet, God sent an angel, shutting the lions' mouths. At dawn, Darius rushed to the den, calling, "Daniel, has your God saved you?" Daniel's voice answered, "My God sent his angel, and I am unharmed." Darius, overjoyed, freed Daniel and decreed that all honor the God of Israel. Daniel's faithfulness shone as a beacon in a foreign land. His story, set against the backdrop of exile, speaks to Americans who face pressure to conform. Daniel's courage to stand firm, even at the cost of his life, inspires us to hold fast to faith, trusting God to deliver through any trial. And the rugged slopes of Mount Carmel, Elijah, a prophet of fire, stood alone against a nation led astray. Israel, under King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, had turned to worship Baal, a false god. Elijah, his cloak weathered by desert winds, burned with zeal for the Lord. "How long will you waver between 2 opinions?" he challenged the people. "If the Lord is God, follow him." Elijah proposed a test. He and Baal's 450 prophets would each prepare a sacrifice, but neither would light the fire. The God who answered with fire would be the true God. The people agreed, gathering on the mountain. Baal's prophets danced, shouted, and cut themselves, calling on their God from morning till noon. No fire came. Elijah mocked. "Perhaps Baal is sleeping." Their cries grew desperate, but the altar remained cold. Elijah rebuilt the Lord's altar with 12 stones, dug a trench around it, and placed his sacrifice. He drenched it with water until the trench overflowed. Then he prayed, "Lord, let it be known that you are God." Fire fell from heaven, consuming the sacrifice, wood, stones, and water. The people fell on their faces, crying, "The Lord is God." Elijah seized the moment, leading the people to turn back to faith. Elijah's boldness speaks to America's spirit of standing for truth. His courage to confront falsehood, even alone, inspires us to act with conviction. For a YouTube audience, Elijah's story is a call to faith that moves mountains, showing that God's power can triumph over any challenge when we trust him. Jesus told a story that pierced the heart. A man had 2 sons, the younger demanding his inheritance early. "Give me my share," he said, and his father, though grieved, divided his wealth. The son left home, journeying to a distant land where he squandered his fortune on wild living. When famine struck, he found himself feeding pigs, starving and alone, longing for the scraps. Coming to his senses, he thought, "My father's servants have food to spare, and I'm dying here." He resolved to return, not as a son, but as a servant. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and you," he practiced. As he neared home, his father saw him from afar, his heart leaping. Running to his son, he embraced him, tears streaming. "I'm not worthy," the son began, but the father called for a robe, a ring, and a feast. "My son was lost and is found," he declared. The older son, hearing the celebration, grew angry. "I've slaved for you, yet you never gave me a feast." The father replied, "You are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But your brother was dead and is alive again." The story ends unresolved, a challenge to embrace mercy. This parable resonates in America, where family and forgiveness are cherished. The Father's love mirrors God's grace, welcoming us home no matter how far we've strayed. For a YouTube audience, it's a reminder that redemption is always possible, and love can heal broken bonds.